Ian, I just wonder actually. You've got this week where you've had a bit of a couple of home games and a bit of a break in the middle. I wonder how you use that week when what you've got coming up next week, especially at this stage of the season, a couple of very long away trips. Is it about maintaining intensity because of the importance of the matches, or is there an element of managing players because of what's still to come?
Bit of both, I think. So we probably after we gave them the weekend off. I think it's the players rarely have a weekend off, and I just think with everybody else playing on the Monday, it was a good opportunity just to reset. We kind of know it's the last opportunity to have a couple of days before we hit the end of the season and hopefully the playoffs. So it was a good opportunity to let them do that, just mentally take a break rather than go on to overkill. But then it means that when they come back in at the start of the week, they're fresh, which means we can pick back up on the intensity and still train in the way in which we want to approach the games. So a little bit of both, bit of a break, but now we're back in. We've really pushed them a little bit in the trainings this week, and now we'll use tomorrow off and Friday just to freshen up.
How tough is it sometimes in matches where you're playing teams at the bottom, teams like last week where you're scoring 4 goals to sort of get that intensity in the match, which would come naturally, and we've seen naturally in matches against, your Wrexhams and Chesterfields and the like. How easy is it to sort of generate that yourselves?
We talked about it actually this morning because I thought we did it well against King's Lynn. I thought we had a lot of runs ahead of the ball. I thought that we moved the ball with tempo. We kept it quite a lot. We had the ball so much in the game. But we did change the pace when we went forwards. But we know that when we play teams that are lower down, like Weymouth, for example, I'd be very surprised if Weymouth come and play in a really open and expansive game from minute one. And we have to understand where they're at. They're fighting for their lives, so they're going to try and make it as difficult as possible and stop us from doing the things that we want to do. So there's definitely in these games an onus where we have to take responsibility for the intensity and the tempo of the games. And that's on us. So yeah, we have to do it. I thought we did it well against King's Lynn, but we're going to have to do that consistently now. Because like you say, maybe in the games against teams that are in a similar position to you, that comes naturally, like they are maybe give a bit more attack minded as well, and maybe in a slightly different balance to the game. There's more emphasis on us to do it.
Yeah, there's a lot of discipline required, I suppose, when you're playing. I mean, look at Weymouth's record. I mean, they've only won once since the end of October, I think, is right in the league anyway. You're so expected to win and expected to win a game comfortably like that. Is it just about the players keeping that focus on the job in hand during it? Is that the key bit, really?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just understanding the things that when we look good as a team, what we do. And consistently doing them through the game. And that doesn't matter if we go 1-0 down like we did on Saturday or 1-0 up. We don't want to go 1-0 up and then take our foot off and sit back. We want to go 1-0 and continue to do those things. So I think we know what a good performance looks like. And so then we've got to try to achieve that when we go out onto the pitch.
I wanted to ask you about Harry Arter, because he's been with you a few weeks now, and the number of minutes he's playing in a game is increased a bit of late. You've generally given him an hour for the first few games, of course, but I just wonder how pleased you've been with him, because he obviously hadn't played a lot of football before, but the bits I've seen him play, he just looked so comfortable on the ball and has got you moving and settled in so quickly. I just wonder, how impressed you've been, and also maybe how surprised you've been at how quickly he's adapted to the pace of the National League, having not played a lot of football for a while. Yeah,
I mean, of course, not surprised that he's adapted, because he's an intelligent football player and he's played at the very highest level. He has around 100 games in the Premier League, so to come to the National League is, of course, a big gulf from that. So I'm not surprised. He manages himself through the games very well. But I think it's been important that we've been smart with how we've managed him, so that he's not going to pick an injury up, anything unnecessary. If we thought in that first week he was going to get 90 minutes out in every game, then we were obviously going to get setbacks. We know he's only here for a short period of time, so we've built it slowly, and like you say, we've kind of gone from 60 to 75 to 87, and he could have done 90. But I felt like he played a good game and maybe deserved the reception from the crowd at the end, so he came out. But of course we're having to manage him through the week a little bit, because the way in which we've been training and the intensity with which we've been training at, I'm not sure that you can come in having not done enough and then do that every single day and then be ready for the games. So we have to manage him a little bit different through the week, understandably. But then I think he's done great to get through the games in the way in which he has.
Talking to Frank Vincent last week, he was saying about how great he's been able to be to learn from, I mean, a number of people, and he picked out a number, he talked about Michael Doyle, who's played in that position, of course, but he mentioned Harry Arter as well, and so the importance of having somebody who's played at the top level, international level. Is that something you've noticed and you encourage getting players like that to lend that experience to the younger players as well?
Yeah, but I think that, like you say, Michael Doyle obviously has a huge respect within the playing group and contributes massively with his own experience, certainly midfielders in that position. Harry does the same. Jim O'Brien does the same with his experiences. So some of the guys that have been around and played at higher level can definitely offer an insight into game experience, preparation, being professional, all these kind of things. So yeah, it's good to have players that can impact some of the younger players with their experiences, and I think what's good is that we have young players that want to learn. So you, at the same time as you've got experienced players that want to give something, you need to have young players willing to kind of receive the information, and I think we have that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for you then, over the next, we talk about sort of managing a player there and letting him play so much. When you've got long away trips like you have over the next week, are you kind of treating those two matches almost together? You sort of Dover and Aldershot away, and thinking about managing players maybe in a way that you might, especially at this end of the season, or is it kind of one game at a time and stick to a strong 11? How do you do it?
I think we're always going to try and put out a team that we think is strong, that can win the game. We've done that in all of them, but you have to be smart. Certainly when we go Aldershot, Dover, Saturday, Monday, we will definitely have to protect some players. That goes without saying. With only one day between the games, we'd be mad to take big risks with players. So without a doubt, in the next kind of 3-4 games, there'll be a lot of rotation within the squad. And I also think that's really healthy, because it gives the players that have been training so hard and not so many minutes that maybe they deserve on the pitch an opportunity to say, I'm ready. If we're in the playoffs, I'm ready, and this is what I can offer. And I think that's a really healthy situation at the back end of the season. So for me, I think there will have to be some rotation and take away any risk of anybody that might be vulnerable if they play Saturday, Monday, for example, and then manage them that way.
Well, yeah, I suppose if you go into a playoff campaign and suddenly you've got a player injured, you want the player who comes in to have played some football recently, don't you, really? You don't want them to come in cold. Exactly.
And we've talked about this in a lot of different positions, that, last season we had a situation where we were on a really good run, but then we hit the playoffs and Jim O'Brien was injured, Jake Reeves was in a really bad way. We ended up kind of moving Enzio in and playing him as a midfielder, and we were a little bit unbalanced, and it didn't help us in those playoff games, really, certainly the second one. So the more minutes that everybody can have, if something happens if we ended up in the quarterfinals of the playoffs, for example, we're going to have 2 games in a short period of time. We're going to demand from a lot of players that they're ready. So I think we can use the next period of games to make sure some of the players are ready and they've got the minutes in them.